Today is Monday, May 15th. We're talking about the surprising outcome at the U.S.-Mexico border once a strict immigration policy ended and another began. Also, tornado outbreaks and heat waves across several states. We'll tell you who is impacted. Plus, how and why the Postal Service is making some upgrades across the country. Why regulators want a recall that could impact tens of millions of drivers. And there's no cashier, but some self-checkout machines are asking for a tip. Those stories and more news to know in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, something unexpected happened at the U.S.-Mexico border over the weekend. The number of people crossing into the U.S. actually went down. In fact, the Homeland Security Secretary says border agents have seen a 50% drop since Thursday, the day the U.S. lifted Title 42. That pandemic-era border policy was replaced with a different one that's also meant to discourage people from coming into the U.S. illegally. It reinstates criminal penalties for people who are caught trying to cross without going through the correct legal process first. Still, even with the new policy, federal and local authorities were preparing for an influx before the shift, with thousands of personnel sent to the border to help control potential chaos. Surprisingly, there hasn't been a whole lot of chaos to control. But some Republican lawmakers say a surge could still be on the way. Others say the U.S. is still taking in migrants who should not be in the U.S. While some Democrats are criticizing the Biden administration for a whole other reason. They say the new restrictions on people trying to seek asylum are inhumane. Many border cities are still overwhelmed by tens of thousands of migrants who came in before Title 42 was lifted. Holding facilities and hospitals are at capacity in many places. The issue also goes much further than the border, too. For example, there's New York City. Hotels in some touristy areas there are being converted into emergency migrant shelters. Chicago is another city that's been seeing a big influx of migrants. Some police stations are packed with people sleeping on their floors because shelters are full. The city is also converting a couple of old high schools into shelters. Similar challenges are popping up all around the country, leaving local officials rushing to search for solutions, while also calling for new solutions and funding from Congress. Well, there are miles of devastation in Myanmar and Bangladesh from a powerful tropical cyclone over the weekend. It was just shy of a Category 5 storm, with 155-mile-an-hour winds, flooding rains, and giant storm surges. So far, authorities don't know the full extent of the damage or the death toll. But just today, rescuers evacuated about 1,000 people who were trapped by seawater, and they say hundreds of people were hurt. The high winds crumpled cell phone towers, cutting off communications. The storm also damaged electrical, transformers, homes, refugee shelters, mosques, and schools. International aid organizations say they are preparing a major emergency response. Well, parts of the United States are now recovering from weekend tornadoes. One person died and a dozen more were hurt when a tornado struck South Texas. In Iowa, roughly 11 tornadoes touched down on Saturday. And there were reports of dozens of tornadoes in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado on Friday. They caused damage, but there were no reports that anyone died. Meanwhile, the Pacific Northwest has been dealing with record-breaking heat. The National Weather Service issued heat advisories from the Canadian border south into California. Several Oregon and Washington cities set new daily temperature records yesterday, with temps that were up to 30 degrees above average for this time of year. And forecasters say even more records could be broken since this heat wave is expected to stick around for a couple more days. Several cooling centers have opened throughout Seattle and Portland. Well, women now have a new option to help them deal with the most common side effects of menopause. The FDA approved a new non-hormonal medication to treat hot flashes and night sweats, which impact as many as 80% of women in their 40s and 50s. It's not as effective as the standard treatment, which includes taking estrogen. But not everyone wants to or is even allowed to take hormonal treatment like breast cancer survivors. So without hormones, this new medicine works to block a chemical in the brain that affects how the body's temperature is regulated. It was found to be about 50% effective. There is a warning about potential liver damage, but doctors say for a lot of women, the benefits outweigh the risks. And with this new FDA approval, the pills could be available in pharmacies within weeks. All right, we have much more news for you still ahead. But first, I want to tell you about our new sponsor, Athletic Greens. Their nutritional drink, AG1, has become part of my morning routine. I first gave AG1 a try because I was talking with Athletic Greens about partnering, and I wanted to make sure I actually liked it. Well, now I take AG1 every day before I eat anything else, and I was actually surprised at how quickly I started noticing a difference. It makes me feel ready to take on the day. I feel a boost in energy. I find myself not reaching for coffee or tea quite as often. If you're not familiar, AG1 can replace a lot of other supplements like a daily multivitamin, minerals, pre- and probiotics for gut health, adaptogens, and a greens blend, and you get it all in just one scoop of powder. I always put it in ice water with a splash of lemon juice, mix, and I'm good to go. If you're looking for a simpler and cost-effective supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So go to athleticgreens.com/newsworthy. That's athleticgreens.com/newsworthy. Check it out. The Postal Service is introducing new upgrades this year. The USPS is installing 12,000 high-security blue collection boxes around the country. They're supposed to make it harder for criminals to be able to access the mail inside. 49,000 other collection boxes will get new electronic locks to hopefully keep criminals from trying to target letter carriers for their keys. This is in response to rising mail theft and other issues. There have been more than 25,000 reported thefts from mail receptacles in just 6 months. So the upgrades have already started. And apparently, the USPS has also been dealing with change of address scams where criminals reroute someone's mail in hopes of getting sensitive information to help them steal their identity. So the Postal Service will no longer accept third-party change of address applications, and applicants will have to show proof of their old and new addresses from now on. America's largest bank is now accused of discriminating against customers for their religious beliefs. 19 Republican-led states say JPMorgan Chase suspended accounts of at least 3 conservative, faith-based organizations for religious reasons. JPMorgan Chase would not comment about the specific allegations, but the bank said, quote, "We have never and would never exit a client relationship due to their political or religious affiliation." And it pointed to the 50,000 accounts still at the bank that are religious in some way. But that's not the only allegation out there. The Republican states also say the bank is being discriminatory because it filled out a survey from the Human Rights Campaign that was apparently particularly relevant for LGBTQ employees, but it did not respond to a new type of survey meant to rate businesses on issues considered more conservative. To that, JP Morgan says not responding was a mistake and that it will complete the survey in the next round. This is all expected to come up more tomorrow at JP Morgan's annual shareholder meeting. One investor submitted a resolution asking the bank to launch an investigation into the allegations, but so far the company is asking its shareholders to vote no. There's debate over a growing safety issue in the auto industry. U.S. regulators say 67 million airbag inflators could explode in a crash and hurt drivers. They're used by at least a dozen car manufacturers like GM, Volkswagen, Chrysler, and Hyundai. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is pressing for a recall after wrapping up an 8-year investigation. But for now, the company that makes them says no, that it will keep cooperating with an investigation, but that a recall is premature at this point. ARC Automotive says the problems that led to injuries and deaths were random manufacturing anomalies, and that the issue has already been addressed. Now the NHTSA could bring the company to court to force the recall. Either way, GM is not waiting. It's recalling almost 1 million vehicles equipped with the inflators, including the Buick Enclave, Chevy Traverse, and GMC Acadia, made between 2014 and 2017. To be clear, the issue is different than the one that led to the recall of more than 100 million Takata airbag inflators about 10 years ago. But the scope of the potential problem and burden a recall could put on automakers and car owners is similar. There's some new controversy surrounding Kelly Clarkson's talk show. 11 current and former staffers told Rolling Stone the show has a toxic environment behind the scenes. They spoke about being bullied, overworked, and underpaid. They didn't actually accuse Clarkson of any wrongdoing. The report mostly focused on conflicts between staffers and executive producers and managers. But Clarkson released a statement anyway. She promised to staff up her show with the, quote, best and kindest in the business, plus she'll start leadership training for senior-level staff. The show was expected to go on summer hiatus after this week anyway, but it's now on hold because of the Hollywood writer's strike. So it seems the next time new episodes will air will be next season, with some new team members behind the scenes. Actor Chris Pratt is dominating the box office these days. He stars in the latest Guardians of the Galaxy movie that made more than any other movie over the weekend. Plus, Pratt is the voice of Mario in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which was the second most profitable. He's a pretty popular actor, but he's probably not the only reason these movies are doing so well right now. He also happens to be in family-friendly franchises that have been performing especially well in theaters overall, even in the age of streaming. The rest of the summer is sure to bring a lot more success for this genre as well. Just a few on the calendar include the live-action Little Mermaid, a new Pixar movie called Elemental, The Flash, plus new Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles, and Indiana Jones movies. Well, that's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, this episode is sponsored by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And I'm really excited to tell you about their new fast and fresh options that are ready in just 15 minutes or less. I recently tried this, and it really works well for our family during the week when we all feel a bit tight on time, but we still want to have a nice homemade dinner together with the whole family. So, for example, I made their chicken and tomato grain bowls with garlicky white sauce and lemon. It was so good. My whole family ate it up, and my husband even commented that making it seemed so much easier and faster. Plus, there are so many options of meals for whatever your lifestyle is. From fit and wholesome to pescatarian to veggie, they have a meal plan that suits your preferences, and from what I've tried, they're all delicious. And by the way, Green Chef is now owned by HelloFresh, so no matter which you do, there's something for everyone. So go to HelloFresh.com/newsworthy16, and you can use that code newsworthy16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Again, go to HelloFresh.com/newsworthy16 and use that code newsworthy16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Okay, now back to Money Monday. You've probably noticed self-checkout machines in various stores, cafes, stadiums, airports, you name it. But when you are the one doing your own checkout, should you still have to tip? People are apparently asking themselves that question since some digital kiosks come with tip prompts. The Wall Street Journal spoke to a few customers who were willing to go ahead and add gratuity on these self-checkout machines, but most of the people interviewed for the report were confused, unsure of where the tips were even going. So the Journal went to find out, asking shop owners and stadiums where these machines are set up. And those who responded say all the tip money collected gets pooled, then paid out to staff members. But of course, they say it's a voluntary show of support from the customers. Some labor advocates still don't like that either, though, since they say customers shouldn't be the ones responsible for making sure employees are paid well, that raises should come from companies. Either way, the prompts seem to work for some people. Payment platforms say tipping overall has increased in the last year, and at least some of that could be coming from customers who do a good chunk of the work themselves. By the way, if you are still unsure who you are supposed to tip, how much you should tip, and how to tip on those digital payment platforms, check out one of our past Special Edition Saturday episodes. We spoke to an etiquette expert all about it, and we'll add a link to the interview in today's episode notes. All right, thank you so much for listening today, making us part of your routine, and sharing the show with friends and family. And a special thanks to all of our insiders, including some new members like Jim from Des Moines, Iowa. And if you're not an insider yet and you want to support our work to provide fast, fair, fun news every day and get access to ad-free daily news plus some bonus content, then please join us at thenewsworthy.com/insider. You can sign up in just seconds and get a free trial. That's thenewsworthy.com/insider, or find it in the link in our episode notes. All right, we'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.